Good evening and welcome to Spanish United Radio. I'm your host, Enrique Sanchez. This evening, we have a very special guest. Would you be kind enough to introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Ricky, my name is Mark Fitzpatrick. I'm the owner of Old State Saloon in Eagle, Idaho.
Welcome. Thank you for being on the show, Mark.
I'm glad to be on. Thanks for inviting me.
Likewise, it's interesting how we met. I wanted to ask you a few questions about your incentive that you were providing to the bar, and what was the goal of providing the incentive to patrons?
Yeah, so the incentive was regarding a hot issue in our American culture for sure, and I'll get to that in a minute. But just as a little bit of background, we have we're not strangers to, we have a history of doing that type of thing. We're a very bold speaking, public speaking type of brand that's a bar and a restaurant, and we speak publicly things that are obviously a bit more aligned to the conservative right way of viewing things politically or culture wars,
Mm-hmm.
and we speak them boldly. So in this instance, the one that you're referring to was last weekend. I posted on the X profile for Old State Saloon that we were offering 1 month of free beer for anyone who could help identify illegals with ICE, and that basically would assist them in deporting an illegal out of Idaho.
Mm-hmm. So by providing that incentive, do you think it was done to get more people to come to the bar to patronize, or do you feel that was a patriotic duty in reporting people that are undocumented?
So it's a combination of all those things. It's awareness. The issue is something that's being discussed a lot. And so we will do things and say things and offer things and have events and things that are, they may be offensive to some people, but other people are very, very much in favor of those events and want to show up and support them. And so for this, it's something that's probably a combination of all those things. We definitely feel like it's a patriotic thing to do, uh, which would be to support law enforcement, support the laws of the land, excuse me, support the
Mm-hmm.
laws of the land. And we also know that our fans, the people that enjoy coming to Old State Saloon, would recognize that as a something to them that's awesome, that's standing for what's right and true, and a conservative ideals and a strong country with borders where we can protect Americans. And so I think that's a lot of people are leaning that direction where they're tired of illegals coming in and open borders and even like people being incentivized to come into the United States because of things that they're able to have here that take away from Americans and the ability for this country to be a great and rich country and prosperous country.
Right. And again, I don't have a problem with the rule of law. I believe in the rule of law. I believe there should be borders and should be rules. I'm for that 100%. American born. My mom's Puerto Rican. Uh, I've been, I'm born and raised in California, so this is the only country that I've known. But and again, my concern is that many people, unfortunately, on the right, they don't seem to distinguish between who is undocumented and who's not, because when people think of undocumented or legal immigrants, they think Hispanic. They don't think European or Asian or African. So my concern in Spanish United is that people that are birthright Americans like myself, if I was living in Idaho, I would be in danger of being harassed by ICE, even though I am not undocumented. So how would you address that to those that are Hispanic birthright citizens?
That's a very fair concern. Um, and I would think that somebody that's just targeted because they're Hispanic or look a certain way that's wrong and shouldn't happen, of course. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's stories and instances and things like that. And it's the point, the problem is that we've gotten ourselves into such a mess. And when you're in a mess, things can be messy when you try to clean that up and fix things and fix the country. And it can get very complicated, especially when some parts of the family are American and other parts aren't. And that's like heartbreaking type of things that I'm sure you're going to bring up. And I agree with you. But it doesn't mean that we can continue on in the way that we're going. A country without borders, and it sounds like you agree with me, is no country at all. I don't know. It's just a mess, and we've gotten to the point because it's so egregious, because the Biden administration was so egregious on letting people in, incentivizing people to come in, and these were like a lot of really, really bad people with trafficking and child trafficking and sex trafficking going across the
Mhm.
border, and all these children that are missing from all these South American countries primarily. This is very, very concerning to me, being somebody who has value for human life and those children, and they have a certain level of innocence, and it's all of these things are heartbreaking. It is truly a mess, and like I'm not saying, you know, that there's no solution that's going to be a solution where everybody's like, yeah, that's actually a fair solution to everybody, and the reason being is because we messed up already the last 20, 25, 30, whatever, however many years
Mhm.
in getting us to this point. But we're at this point. And I don't think most Americans think or consider how close to devastation we are with inviting all of these people from all over the world into our country across our borders. It's basically a sleeping army of military age males that are now in our country. And the
Right.
more weak that we get, they could rise up with riots and whatever and start attacking and ruin our way of life and potentially even really take down our country.
Don't you think that's a little bit going towards like conspiracy theories?
No.
Okay. No, the reason why I ask because, there is, and again, I'm not here to say that you're wrong or anything, but I know that there is a misconception on among the right, which is called the Great Replacement Theory, where many people believe that the Jews, and particularly, want open borders so that way the country becomes predominantly non-European. I know that for many European Americans, that is a concern because many European Americans are not having children as, let's say, non-white immigrants or, foreigners. But I do believe that immigration is an issue that does need to be resolved. But I feel that, as a business owner, there are ways to probably bring up dialogue without having to, I wouldn't say demonize, but maybe ostracize a group of people. That's what my concern is. That's why I reached out to you.
The only group of people that I'm ostracizing are illegals, and that to me is not about skin color. It's not about race. I realize there's gonna be there already have been some very difficult situations, and we should be ashamed of ourselves for letting our country get to this point. Regarding your previous comments, I have no idea. I mean, I've heard some of that replacement theory stuff. I see a lot of indication that some of that type of thinking could be true. There does seem to be a lot of in the last 25 years anti-white rhetoric. If you're fair and look at everything in a balanced way, I think there's plenty of evidence to show that. I mean, we're literally have instances, or not instances. We have what's it called? Well, there's DEI. But before that, there was affirmative action, and these
Hmm.
things just got way out of hand. I mean, just way out of hand. I mean, I was a victim of ridiculous. I mean, not even affirmative action. It was just extreme discrimination against me because I'm a male white. When I was applying for LAPD, back in I think it was 1999. And
Hmm.
it was I mean, it was total discrimination. And the lady who did my background investigation for the LAPD told me they're just not hiring white males right now. And that was, even though I scored a really high score, went through all the process, passed all my physical, passed psychological, passed everything,
Hmm.
ended up saying they weren't going to hire me for stupid reasons. I told them on the first day. And she tells me, on the side, it's just basically like instead of you going into the next academy class, there's a female black who has a prior arrest for prostitution that's going in that class. And she scored a 70 and you scored a 95.
Hmm.
So that's not even close to affirmative action. That's not even reasonably close. That is just flat out discrimination against male whites, and that's been going on for a long time. So you ask, we're getting off on a different issue here, but
Hmm.
you asked me, is there a concerted effort, by whoever, the powers that be, the people that control the World Economic Forum, to replace a race of white people? Of course, they're not going to say that out loud, but is there some indication of things like that happening? I don't know. I mean, it seems like you could point to certainly a lot of evidence of that. I mean, look at our television and our shows and everything. You hardly ever see the last 20 years a male white who's actually a strong figure that's respected in shows. It just doesn't happen anymore.
Right.
Um, so those are just points that from my perspective that I've seen. And I don't live life like, oh, whatever, I'm a victim. I went on and I got hired by a police department, and it was a better police department. So I know that God had a better plan for me rather than being with LAPD. I went and was hired by a better department in Southern California, and I'm thankful LAPD didn't take me.
Hmm.
So I move on, and it's like I'm not going to be a victim. I'm going to move on and do my thing and live life. But the reality is like you can't just dismiss, that theory that you said was a conspiracy theory. You can't just dismiss it when there's a whole lot of, evidence or stories or things to consider. I think it's really simple to just say, "Oh, the Jews." I
Hmm.
just, yeah, that's kind of ridiculously simple to kind of basically just say the Jews have a plan to get rid of whites out of the United States or something like that. But
Hmm. Well, yeah, because that's always been the common trope of, many white supremacist theology for many years. That the Jews have a conspiracy to run the world.
yeah, I mean, definitely are, those people at the top pulling strings. If you think that's a conspiracy theory, I mean, I definitely, I guess that's a conspiracy theory I believe in. There's very few people who pull the strings and run the world. Whether they're Jewish or not, I don't know. I mean, that would take a conversation to even define what Jewish means. But,
Right.
but for me, that's not, and it's what I said on several of my interviews. I mean, I mean, I'm getting thousands of messages a day being called racist. And I mean, I am, that's just ridiculous to me. But, so I just, I have to ignore it and just move on. But that is just so ridiculous. I'm a Christian, and to me, I know what the Bible says, which is that everybody, representatives from every tribe and nation will be present at the throne of God. And that means that it doesn't matter if you're white or black or brown or whatever color you are, it doesn't matter what race you are, your skin color, whatever. People from all of those tribes and ancestries and races will be present. That means that, but there is a common bond between those people that are present. Not all of them are present, but there are representatives from all those tribes present. And the reason they're there is because they basically put Jesus Christ in their life as their Lord and Savior, knowing that they're a sinner and that Jesus Christ died on the cross for their sins. And
Hmm.
so that's what unites us as brothers and sisters, more so than being an American. That's more important than that. But, when it comes to being in a country, we're Americans. We need to make America strong. We need to make America rich. We need to make America prosperous. And then once it is, and once we've taken care of all of our American citizens and we have a strong border, then then we can think about we're rich. Maybe there's
Hmm.
some places and organizations and things around the world that we can help. And we can, there's a lot of way you can help just simply by putting pressure on them in trade agreements, and I think that's something Trump is pretty good at doing. So you can hopefully stop, potentially people from being trafficked or whatever because you put pressure on a government in trade and stuff like that. But you can't do
Hmm.
that if you're not a strong, rich, and powerful government. And so that's what I want to create, so that we can be a leader in the world for what's right and true.
Hmm. No, it's fine. And like I said, you could have those beliefs, I'm not knocking you for them. And I do believe that when you have a strong nation, the nation is able to look after its people. But again, I'm just concerned because right now, regardless if you agree with me or not, many Hispanic people, both American born and non-citizens, they feel that they are being targeted by this administration and by ICE. And I have done many outreach work with many Hispanic groups, and I've done work with many politicians that many Hispanic people live in fear, and many of them don't want even want to go out because they're afraid of being deported, being arrested. And then when people see on the news, like for example, like your promotion, and again, I'm not saying that you're wrong or anything, but it kind of reinstates that fear that there are people that are Hispanophobic that want Hispanics people out of here because they don't consider us being part of the country. So that's
I
something
mean,
that
I I have I have Hispanic Americans that come to my bar that want illegals that are Hispanic out of the country and other races. I mean, they're Americans. That's
Mhm.
the way they look at life is I'm an American. I'm a Hispanic American, but I don't want all these illegals here. It's drawing so much off of our systems and everything else. So I mean, you can try to keep saying it's race and allege that it's race and everything, but there are a lot of all the different races are going to be affected by this because there's plenty of other countries and that are here as well that represented that are here illegally. You know, as far as I'm concerned, we can end all the refugee stuff too, and I don't know what the word is, repatriate or re-bring them back.
Repatriate.
Yeah. So we can do that and then yeah, like I said, let's strengthen everything up and here and um have Americans take the jobs and we will have a lot less of a burden on society having to deal with the ramifications of having people in our country, many of which actually have come into our country knowingly hating us. Um
Hmm.
and you have the very typical, I realize this is very typical response to people who support illegals, and they're out there. And I'll just use the example because I've seen it more often lately: the Mexican flag, waving the Mexican flag and cheering for Mexico, and basically saying they hate this country, you
Hmm.
know? And it's like, okay, well, if you hate the country, then just get out, go somewhere else, go to Mexico, go live in Mexico, go
Hmm.
live in whatever country that you think is better, that you can go live in and be prosperous and do well in that country and support that country's laws. You know, maybe it's just, we need to be honest and say like these people just don't want to follow the laws or they want to change them or they want to tear the country down. I don't know. Some of them do, I'm sure. Many
Hmm.
don't. Man, I've so many Hispanic friends that are such hardworking, awesome Americans that I'm just so thankful for their story of coming here. Just like I have European friends where their families came here. My grandparents did certainly, and they were became citizens of the United States, and they came from another country, of course.
Did they come from Germany by any chance?
No, they came from England.
Oh, okay, because the surname's Fitzpatrick kind of sounds German. That's why I asked.
Oh no, it's like a pretty typical Irish name actually. That
Oh,
everybody
so
always
it
thinks Irish.
so
Yeah.
it's Gaelic then. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And another question I wanted to ask you, aside from me, reaching out to you civilly, have you ever gotten like negative threats like onto your business, onto your life because of, things that you have made about, your business, like promoting different ways of getting people to come to your establishment?
Yeah, I mean I can't even count them all. Just from Saturday to here. I've done, in the past we did an event that was called Heterosexual Awesomeness during June where we decided to celebrate God's design for sexuality, heterosexuality rather than celebrating gay and lesbian and LGBTQ and all that stuff. We celebrated heterosexuality and it went viral and I got a lot of people upset. But those people were like they responded and they were very evil in their responses and very like childish. And they kept sending, they still do to this day. They send me gay porn and stuff all the time. And it comes in on our business. I even have people send stuff in the mail, that like physically in the mail. But what's interesting is like when the Pride movement was very angry with me, and they would send all that stuff, and there were some death threats too. It was less physical violence and more this really dark, demonic type of activity. Is the best way I can explain it.
Hmm.
They really, really would, they would send me stuff with Jesus doing gay porn stuff, and just knowing that it would bother me, and it
Right,
was these people are very evil. Okay, so also keep in mind, I had gays and lesbians who came in and they said, we really appreciate what you're doing because LGBTQ pride movement's gone way too far, right? So they
right,
were very reasonable people. Uh, and I have gay and lesbian friends that agree with me, and I don't have any problem hanging out and talking to them. But then we do this event, and everybody's really, really pissed off. I mean, like I have a bigger response of people pissed off. I have also a lot of support, as you can probably see online, but I have a lot of people that are really upset. A lot of just horrific words, just disgusting things that they're sending me. And everybody's calling me, Hitler, Nazi, bigot, whatever. I get all the names, but by far, there's far more threats of physical violence and burning down my building and burning down my company this time than last time.
and
And
what
so,
and what you say is mostly from the LGBT community, or is it from
no, no,
Hispanics, or just in general?
this time is different. It's not. I mean, I still do have all those LGBTQ people that were mad at me before. They're all still mad at me, but this time it's more of and I make a generalization here, and you think about gangs, and who makes up the gangs. There's a lot of illegals that wind up being in gangs because that's a way of life, and that
Right.
they, that's just a fact of life. I mean, I just know that I'm a police officer. That's the way. That's the facts, and it's a way of protecting yourself. And I understand that. And it's a way that you grow up, you're in it, and it's a way of protecting yourself and being part of something. I can completely understand that, but gangs tend to be more violent, right? And
Right.
so their solution to problems is often violence. So when this problem presents itself and they don't like me for being my, all the things that they said that I am, then it would be, more of a natural thing for them to basically threaten that type of violence.
Right. And unfortunately, because of ICE and because of many Hispanics being deported and fired from their jobs, there is a fear that the gangs might come back again. Because, like you said, many Hispanics feel that they're pushed against the wall, nobody wants them, and the only way they react is through violence. It's like, for example, you have a dog and you abuse it. It gets to a point that it's going to start biting. And that's what I'm seeing with many of the Hispanic community, that they feel that doesn't matter what they do, they're always going to be demonized. And unfortunately, this is a concern that I have, that many of these young Hispanics in particular, between the ages of, teens and young tw and 20s, they could be lured into being part of gangs. And I feel that that could serve as a backlash, because many of these criminal organizations are American, and the same way with Islamic extremists, many cartels and Hispanic or gangs are very anti-American. So I feel that the best way to counter um, many Hispanics from becoming violent towards white people would be engaging them, like the same way I'm engaging with you diplomatically, respectively, civilly. I think that's a way that you know it could be reached out, because when people feel that they're being attacked because they're whatever, it can create a negative reaction.
You bring up some great points, and I agree. I think that we're learning from each other right now. And I guess I would say is that you have a lot of people in our country, similarly to the pride thing, who realize this has gone way too far. Like the pride movement went way too far because they are like parading down the street, celebrating the fact that they are tricking boys and girls and deceiving them into thinking that they're not a boy or they're not a girl. I mean, you can't get more wicked than that. That is completely wicked. And that whole thing now, because of the last 2 years, is of and a lot of it has to do with being defunded. But that whole thing, the whole trans movement is majorly dying. And you have people in the LGB part of that community that want to divorce themselves from the rest of it and say that's ridiculous. And they agree this is egregiously evil. Okay. And so now you apply that, and that's when everybody stood up and started saying enough is enough. It's gone way too far. And so that's where we're at with immigration. I think everybody, not everybody obviously, but everybody in my world and everybody that's thinking what I'm thinking is like, hey, this has gone way too far, and it never should have. And I'm embarrassed to be in this point in history where we have to have families ripped apart, and it breaks my heart. And honestly, I wish I could adopt every one of those kids. It truly breaks my heart. But in order to preserve a country and not have it be completely destroyed, there has to be drastic measures taken because the people who are saying deport them all, every last one, they are basically saying this country is almost done. Like we are almost done. We're on the brink. And
Mhm.
this is what it's come to. Even though this is going to break up families, even though this is going to ruin people's lives, ultimately it's going to save more when we shore up our walls and defenses of this country and make this country rich and powerful and prosperous again.
Mhm. And do you believe that the only way that can be done is to just sealing the country from the whole world, or is it just securing the borders?
Well, I would need you to explain the difference.
Okay, there were, there was a difference between self-isolating, like for example, like Bhutan, which is completely isolated from the world, and securing the border, but at the same time being connected with the world.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the United States of America, I mean, I don't see how you're not connected with the rest of the world, or the whole monetary system and everything is kind of based off the USA. And and so I don't see completely isolating. I just see protecting our borders, having very tight immigration rules, and having everybody know that, and having everybody know that this is not the place to sneak into because you get a bunch of free stuff. And if that's if people knew that, there would be a lot less people trying to do that. And so that's what needs to be changed. But unfortunately, we went through years where we had, administrations who didn't do that.
Hmm. No, that's true. That's true. I know that, many administrations have just not addressed that issue, and unfortunately, that's the reason why the situation with immigration spiraled out of control. Another question I was going to ask you, aside from having your events, have you ever had like people from the Hispanic community or from the immigrant community like want to dialogue with you at your bar to discuss, concerns or issues that they might have? That's my question to you.
Yeah, not specifically regarding this particular issue yet. I am very approachable, happy to chat and sit down with anybody. If I can spare the time at all, I definitely would. I did have over the last year and a half several conversations with gays and lesbians who have come in, and we've sat down and we had good conversations. I went out to Pride events and engaged people in conversation. I've put some of those, I've put them online. But my number one mission in life is not to glorify the United States of America. My number one mission in life is to glorify God. That's what
Right.
I'm going to do every day. I want to do what's right for Jesus Christ and for God. I'm a citizen of His kingdom first, and I'm just a expatriate here. This is just this is a temporary kingdom that I'm in. But to me,
Right.
this is all about God. So when people want to sit down, I'll talk through the issues with them. But then I want to leave that conversation with them knowing, like, hey, look, I'm the same as you. We're sinners, and we all need a savior.
Right, right. Another question I was going to ask, and again, I find it a little bit ironic because when people think of a bar or of a saloon, they kind of associate it with the mundane. So how do you put your faith or your beliefs between the holy and the mundane together in a bar?
Can you explain what you mean by mundane?
Mundane means not of God, because scripture mentions that
Yeah,
you are to keep the mundane and the profane away from the holy. And from what
correct.
I know from scripture, that idolatry, that drunkenness is idolatry. Scripture does not
Drunk,
forbid drinking, but it does forbid drunkenness, which is the same as idolatry. So that's
right.
why
Yeah,
I'm
no,
trying to put those two together.
drunkenness is horrible. Yeah, it's a horrible sin. And that's taking something that's a gift from God. Alcohol is a gift from God. And if you use it right, just like sex, you're going to honor God and you'll be blessed. And
So can
so
you can you
you,
elaborate a little bit about how alcohol is different from God?
well, I mean, literally, Jesus literally gave it as a gift to a wedding crowd. That was his first miracle. I mean, he changed
Right,
water into
right.
wine.
Wine.
Yeah.
Right.
And so you have different verses throughout the Bible that say, it's a gift. You have in Timothy, Paul wrote to have some wine and these types of things. And if you do it in a way that's you're celebrating and you're fellowshipping and you're not a glutton and making it a god or whatever or getting to that point where you're a drunkard or being drunk, then it's a gift. You're using it the way that God would want you to use it. And it's the same thing. You compare it with food. How come nobody calls the restaurant owner? By the way, we are a restaurant, we have food, but how come nobody calls the restaurant owner and says, how do you own a restaurant? How can you own a restaurant and go to work every day knowing that some people are going to come in there and overeat? They overeat and they're gluttons. They do that in your restaurant, yet you still open every day.
Hmm. Right.
Nobody ever says that to restaurant owners. How come nobody ever says to the pastors of a church, how do you open your doors every day knowing that people are going to come in and be jealous of other people? They're going to gossip in the halls. They're going to sin inside your church, but you continue to open the doors and allow that to happen. How come nobody ever says that to pastors? But they say it to me because I serve alcohol. Alcohol is not a sin. Drinking alcohol is not a sin. Jesus did it. But if you do it right, it's great. And if you abuse it like every other gift, it's sinful and wrong. And alcohol can definitely lead to a whole lot of destruction and ruin families and ruin relationships and all those things and kill people. And so does overeating, actually. Kills
Hmm.
more people every year than alcohol does, believe it or not.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Anything done in excess is bad. Everything one should always do, in moderation.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's really something to consider. So yeah, on a final note, how would you address the issue of, let's say, people wanting to picket, or let's say wanting to shut down your business? Like, what would you do? Try to find not a conclusion, but how would you find like a compromise? Because there's a lot of people that are very upset with, the whole thing with ICE and immigrate, that type of thing. So like, what compromise do you think you will be able to do?
I don't really have a compromise to offer. I mean, it's because there's just a large growing faction of people that have gotten to that point where enough is enough. I mean, I don't know what to say. I don't think people are going to have very good luck trying to picket or whatever in Eagle, Idaho. It's just not going to work well. The police are going to dismiss them pretty quickly. There's a lot of private property around my building, and I'm not going to just let people stand. I mean, I might do it for a little while and talk to them, but I mean, if they're trying to block my business or whatever, I'm just going to eventually arrest them for trespassing and move on. And so the law enforcement in Idaho is not like California. They're not going to stand by. They're going to come in and kick some butt if people are breaking the law and trespassing, and that's the way it goes. Not literally kick butt, but you know what I
Right,
mean.
right.
Just
I know what you mean. Of
just go
course.
take care of business. And
Right,
and
of
in
course.
California, they stand down, and in Idaho, they actually do their jobs and they take people to jail. And we're a state where people can live without being in fear of being ruled by people who don't care about the law. And in
Hmm.
Idaho, we're still a place where the law is respected and we have enforcement, generally speaking. Although we are losing some of it because of the weak mayor in Boise, Lauren McLean. But I don't want to get through a program without expressing what a horrible person that leader is in Boise, and she needs to be removed from office ASAP.
Hmm.
Sorry
Of
to change the
course. No,
subject.
no, it's fine. It's fine. Like I said, this is an open discussion. But yeah, like I said, the reason why I sent you that cease and desist letter because, you know, as what I do with many establishments which we feel could be a danger to public safety, we do it more as a safety measure, not necessarily, you know, that we are gonna, burn a building down or anything like that. But, you know, it is like I said, I sent it more as a concern than anything else, you know.
Mhm.
So don't take it personal on your part.
No, I understand. Yeah, no, First Amendment rights. I mean, I have huge respect for that. And at the same time, that's the respect I would think that everybody should have for me to be able to say, I just want the law enforced. And if people want to come out and protest and they want to call for boycotts or whatever, that's fine. I mean, it already is that way. Everybody who would be, in support of, illegals continuing to stay here is probably not going to come to Old State Saloon anyways. So, I
Mhm.
mean, a boycott, just to be frank with you, is not going to work. But people want to express their First Amendment rights. I'm all about that. Come on out, be on the street, hold your signs. If you want to come in and have a cup of coffee and have a conversation Saturday, I mean, I'll be there most of the day. So
Okay. Well, anyway, we come to the end of our time. I want to tell you thank you for being on the show. And for all the listeners that's listening, Spanish United, we are on all social media platforms. We are on Spanish United, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. We are a nonprofit organization. Anyone that wants to donate, anything is used to help those in the community. And again, Mark, thank you so much for taking your time for being on the show. As soon as I am done, I will email you the link to the podcast, and you could share it on all of your platforms. And thank you for taking your time.
yeah, right on. Ricky, I want to tell you, I got a lot of respect for you. I appreciate the conversation.
My pleasure. And again, like I said, you know, dialogue and exchange is very important in these days, regardless if, you know, we are on different sides of the aisle.
Agreed. All right, man. Have a good night.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.